Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mind Hub. 90 Day Fiancé is filled with drama for the most part, but these 9 90 Day Fiancé couples with sad endings are some of the worst relationships that were ever featured on the show. Also comment Splitsville, and we'll give a lucky winner a shout out in the next video. 9. Mohamed and Danielle.
Can you tell us what he's talking about?
He has told people that I smell and I peed on him.
This couple was obviously doomed right from the start, and Mohamed was definitely the troublemaker as far as this particular couple was concerned. Danielle, quite obviously, tried her best to make it work, and she was really committed to the relationship. Mohamed, on the other hand, was pretty shady right from the start, refusing to be honest about much of anything during their time together. He constantly lied about his job status while they were together and referred to Danielle's looks as simply acceptable, which is a pretty rough thing to say about your significant other, especially when you consider the fact that she went all out and did everything she could to please him. He also refused to be intimate with her at all, even so far as to refuse to give her a proper kiss on their wedding day of all occasions. He definitely just hooked up with Danielle in order to get his green card and stay in the country he had chosen to settle down with. He obviously had no intention to stay with Danielle, which was evidenced by the idea that he promptly left her almost immediately after the pair officially got married. And he didn't just leave her to do his own thing. He actually left her for another woman without ever looking back. That's a really sleazy thing to do, and Mohamed ended up getting on the wrong side of the show's fans when he pulled that stunt. Danielle, for her part, has been busy trying to get him booted out of the country for his deception, and plenty of fans have stepped up to create and sign a petition to try and force the government to deport him and teach him a lesson in not being a terrible person. 8. Darcy and Jesse.
And whatever problems we've been having, but I don't know if he's really here to fix the problem. I think he just wants to cause more problems.
This couple was featured on the show plenty of times, even showing up on the spinoff Before the 90 Days twice. Darcy was clearly on the show for the right reasons and was obviously interested in making things work with Jesse. Jesse, for his part, was a total narcissist and seemed unable to put anyone's needs before his own ego. Darcy repeatedly tried to get past this problem and was more than happy to spend time with Jesse's family so that she could get to know them better. They did seem to like her, but Jesse wasn't ready to put in any work at all towards making his relationship with Darcy better. Instead, he mainly focused on keeping his abs on point, then making his soon-to-be bride happy in anything that she did. Fans all noticed that he was mean, dismissive, and manipulative, often going out of his way to put Darcy down for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Darcy's at a point where she'd like to settle down, and she really did her best to try to achieve her goal, but choosing Jesse was a huge mistake for her to make. We're sure she'll find someone much better than him eventually, and we hope that he'll finally manage to get over his self-centered attitude. Although we doubt he's capable of turning that corner at this point. 7. Molly and Luis.
Babies, Riley, babies.
Now you want to feed me.
One of the worst couples we've ever seen, Molly and Luis, had no chance of making it long-term as far as we can tell. Luis was 24, and Molly was 41 when they first met when Molly and his friends were on vacation in the Dominican Republic. She eventually encouraged him to join her in the United States, which started out terribly and then progressively got worse. For starters, Luis couldn't have cared less about Molly's kids, going out of his way to ignore them or otherwise pretend they weren't there. Her kids took serious offense to this treatment, and rightfully so, which should have been the big first red flag for Molly. Luis continued to double down, making amazingly inappropriate comments to her kids, especially her daughter Olivia. He also made Molly cry on more than one occasion due to his verbal abuse, which isn't applaudable in the least. Then there's his infamous bachelor party, during which he continuously ogled the strippers pretty much the entire night. The two didn't last long as a married couple, eventually divorcing and going their separate ways. Luis eventually remarried in 2018, and we hope that he treats his new beau better than he treated Molly. 6. Jorge and Ina.
You kicked me out. I spent the night in the garage.
So?
I didn't leave you.
The reasons that these two decided to get married were absolutely terrible. Jorge was definitely just interested in having a young wife who was also good-looking to show off to his friends and make himself feel better about his own shortcomings. And Ina, on the other hand, was similarly in it for the wrong reasons. She just wanted a rich husband to buy her things and spend money on her, along with someone to simply get her a green card. Their relationship had nothing to do with love, respect, or adoration, which meant that it was never going to amount to much. Jorge also lied through his teeth about his past, including his criminal convictions, and even how much money he had to his name. When the truth finally surfaced, and Ina really went all out, keying his car and throwing a wild tantrum on more than one occasion. They fought constantly, and that eventually tore them apart, with Jorge ending the ordeal with a very serious criminal conviction being added to his record. They fought each other physically plenty of times, on top of the standard yelling at each other, and they should have always known that things would end up going downhill eventually. 5. Ashley and Jay.
Foreign guys like knocking the panties off of women, but I'm not concerned about our relationship, and that's what's happening.
Ashley was a mother of 2 and was 30 years old when she fell head over heels for Jay, who was 19 at the time. They had a lot of fun together when they first got together, but things eventually soured. That happened when Ashley found out that Jay was getting close to a number of other women on various dating apps. He tried to say that everything was innocent, but simply being on dating apps isn't a good look for someone who just got married. She finally got the proof she needed when a video surfaced of Jay being called out for his behavior, making it clear that he had, in fact, cheated. Ashley kicked him out of the house and sent him packing, but gave him another chance. He failed to stay true to her yet again, and she finally booted him for good. 4. Colt and Larissa.
So, money. Money, 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 money.
Why don't we figure out a budget?
Colt and Larissa were terrible for each other, but they didn't immediately realize that fact, which caused some issues when they were together. They met online and met each other in Mexico before deciding to make a home for themselves in the United States. Larissa, for one, is extremely jealous, and most of the time this jealousy manifests for no real reason. She went nuts every time Colt so much as spoke to another woman, constantly calling him an attention whore. That's no way to endear yourself to your significant other, but she didn't care much about being a better person. Colt, on the other hand, seems to be far too aggressive when talking to Larissa, and she's called the cops on him plenty of times after he hit her, which is similarly something only a terrible person would do. We'd say that these two deserve each other, but we think it's best if they go their separate ways because their relationship is entirely too toxic. 3. Nicole and Azan.
Oh my gosh.
When I see all her body, I was surprised that she's big a little bit.
Fans still can't quite figure out what made execs at 90 Day Fiancé focus on Nicole and Azan's relationship in 2 separate seasons of the show. But we have to say that it definitely boosted the drama level of the show, which we're sure had a positive effect on the ratings. Still, it was hard to watch the two, separately with all of Nicole's nonsense to try to wrap one's head around. Nicole clearly had no interest in learning anything at all about Azan, his culture, or his life before the two of them hooked up, refusing to put herself out at any point in their relationship. She refused to lift a finger to help him or change her behavior to make things easier on him, which should be the bare minimum for anyone who says they are in love. Nicole constantly harassed Azan when it came to the things he did, mostly because she didn't care to understand where he was coming from in the least. She berated him for following his culture and religious practices, trying her best to shame him into conforming to her own one-sided view on everything. She even promised that she'd lose weight when it started to become a serious issue for both of them, making it look like she was doing her best to get in shape while secretly keeping a large stash of junk food hidden from him. She also refused to work out or do anything to better her situation. 2. Mark and Nikki.
No, it's not on, but see, there's a big pedal here, right?
Stop.
No, you don't use that foot. You use your same foot to stop and the same foot to go.
The biggest issue that we noticed when it came to Mark and Nikki was the age difference between them. Usually, people don't focus on something like that unless it's a big deal. We have to say that Mark, being 58, and Nikki only being 19 when they first met on a dating site, is a bit of a strange concept. That being said, the couple seemed to not care about their age gap, and Nikki didn't waste much time in moving from the Philippines to the United States in order to get closer to Mark. As it turned out, that wasn't a great move for her to make because Mark was overly controlling and demeaning in everything that he did when it came to their relationship. He made Nikki sign a strict prenup that her lawyer later dismissed as being a piece of garbage. She got the short end of the stick there, but it got worse when he started trying to dress Nikki in his daughter's old clothes. That's a very strange request, especially because he could easily afford to buy her new clothes if he wanted to. Even his daughter went on the record as saying the move was seriously creepy, which suggests that she got a lot more sense than dear old dad. Mark was a terrible person throughout their relationship and just kept getting creepier and creepier until fans and Nikki finally couldn't take much more of his nonsense. 1. Chantal and Pedro.
About it being your college friend.
Chantal and Pedro just couldn't make their relationship work, and we have to say that it all came down to their families not agreeing with their partnership at all. Pedro also opted to put his other family members' well-being before Chantal's, often kicking her to the curb in order to spend time catching up with them. Many people have said that he cared too much about his family and how they were doing, to Chantal's detriment. Things took a serious turn for the worst when the couple decided to get their families together to meet each other. They definitely didn't see eye to eye and quarreled about pretty much everything, especially when Pedro's mother decided to serve Chantal's family chicken's feet. They were disgusted by the meal and ended up being very honest about the issues they had with it, which just served to broaden the rift between the two families. After that point, they couldn't stop arguing with each other back and forth, often forcing their kids to clean up the messes that they had made. Fans couldn't take all the back and forth abuse, with their war-making fans eventually turned their backs on the couple and all the baggage they carried with them.